Grand Rising, everyone. This is Brian Greenlee, and welcome to another episode of Just a Tip, where we talk about things, ideas, people, and places. I have our special guest, Dr. Darby, who is going to elaborate more on what we've started, which is the deconstruction of Christianity. Again, Dr. Darby, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Absolutely fantastic to be here, and I'm always humbled to be in your presence. And I want to thank you for reigniting a spark in me to get some of this information out. I had somewhat semi-retired from spreading this news, and after meeting you, you kind of reignited that in me, and this spark has got me going again, and whatever I can share, I'm just happy to do it, and I appreciate you having me, brother.
Not a problem, and the pleasure is all mine. And I, like you, and like many, we are in search of knowledge.
Yes.
Not just knowledge, but we're trying to break a thinking pattern.
Yes.
The indoctrination that has really controlled our thoughts, our way of being.
Yes.
In the previous episodes, I talked about my experience in Christianity and where it led me. I had to put the book down to unlearn, to relearn.
Yes, sir.
To unlearn,
divest.
To relearn.
Yes, sir. Divest.
And invest in myself, invest in my history. Because if we leave it to a group of people, colonizers, they're going to control how you think. They're going to tell you what to think. They're going to tell you who to follow.
Yes, yes.
What book you're going to use to do that. So we're going to continue on with the deconstruction of Christianity, and I'll pass the mic over to you, sir.
All right, brother. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Well, as you know, last time we left off with symbolic thought versus symptomatic thinking, as symptomatic thinking and systematic thinking will lead to critical thinking, logical thinking, which will be the opposite of symbolic thought. So we talked about that because that is very crucial when it comes to the indoctrination of the colonizer. We can't leave off the colonizer when it comes to the position of the African American in North America and the United States. Unfortunately, that is part of our beginnings, okay? And it plays a big role in the religious concepts and religious construct that most African Americans follow. In fact, when I began this journey, 92% of African Americans in the United States were actually Christians. And this was around 1998 or so. This is just my personal journey. And at that time, I was searching for, why did I become one? Why was I a pastor? Why was I a minister at that time? And I was, at the end of the day, indoctrinated, just like any or many of the ones that were inhabiting North America. And mine just happened to be my particular family. And it started out like that for me personally, just trying to discover for me, how did I get here? Actually, it took many years later for me to start having an awakening through enlightenment within. Of course, that was after running into many contradictions in the document, or we'll call that the principal document, which was the KJV Bible. Now you fast forward to 2025, and the last poll that was released was about 72% of African Americans are still following Christianity, okay? So when you look at this term Christianity, we definitely have to make a distinguishing difference between the word and its origin versus what we're doing today. So if you know anything about the Ethiopian church, it started in Africa as well as Christianity. But that Christianity is not the same as the Christianity today. So, right, what you see today is a taking over, a remixed and a regenerated in words, phrases, verses, and publication added from its original form. So there's been a lot of redacting and a lot of adding and a lot of positioning. So we use the same word, but the original Christianity is not the same as what we're following today. Okay. And I'm going to keep it right there to kind of keep it simple, but anyone can investigate Christianity before Christ. Okay. And you'll find out what they practiced in the motherland or the continent before it was remixed and controlled by the invaders and colonizers. And so what we have today is something totally different. Is that making sense?
Oh yeah, it makes total sense.
So what we'll find is the percentage has went down among Christianity and African Americans in 2025 because there's a lot of information now that's available that wasn't available then. And if you go 10 years before that, there's a lot of information that was not available. So I mentioned 1998, you go back to 88, right? And the internet and the airwaves had less information and less people promoting the truth on the latter day Christianity, which is the Christianity we're dealing with today in 2025. Okay? So what it does, it poses a question. And the question it poses is, what is the African Americans' fascination with the King James Bible? See, that's a good question to ponder. And I started out asking myself that. What is my fascination with this book? Why am I so stuck on this book? How come I'm not looking anywhere else? And for me, it was because it was given to me. And I was raised by that book, and it was my mother, as I stated before, and my father. I can tell you countless stories he's told me about him as a child going to this small church in Emerson, Georgia, and the activities he would perform there, including singing and other activities, Bible study, and, Sunday school. So, of course, me being born without a state of mind and growing up in this environment, making these observations, having these associations, aunts, uncles, aunties, grandmother, grandfather, and they all had the same book, I developed an affection and a fascination with this book, having never investigating it, having never reviewed its contents cover to cover, and having never questioned its origin. Well, of course, as I became an adult, I started to read into it and question the origin. And all those who was in my environment that helped with raising me did not know. So that ignited another fire in me to go find out for myself. So as I did this and I began this journey and to invite others in, I found out there were many of my fellow African Americans that did not know. They knew verses, they knew activities, Sunday school, collection, open the doors of the church, preacher, reverend, preaching, singing. They knew everything, singing, shall I say, and, opening the doors of the church. They knew the fellowship piece. They knew the Holy Ghost. They knew catching the Holy Ghost.
Rituals.
Traditions.
That's been passed on.
That's
from
been
generation
passed on.
to generation
That's
to generation
right.
to us.
Absolutely. They had it down pat. Therefore, what I see is I have a shared interest among people of color, and at least the ones that I've come across. And many of them had questions and so forth. So I want to dive right in right there and talk about the African Americans' fascination with the KJV. Okay, particular. And I like to use the KJV because that version has the word authorized that always precedes it. The authorized KJV, the authorized version. And if you ask yourself, as opposed to what? So what came before this authorized version? All right. And if you look at that, you'll find just from basic search, you'll find that the authorized version that was authorized by King James was the version that was settled upon after many revisions, many redactions, many changes, and from a group of protesters that they later called Protestants, right? Protestants. If you look at that word, Protestants, they protested. You got the Septuagint, right?
Okay.
Latin Vulgate, book called the Great Bible, Geneva Bible, the Bishop's Bible, the Douay-Rheims Bible. Then you got the KJV that kind of comes in there around 1611, right? That has this first, what you call the pressed one, or the Gutenberg, that Johann Gutenberg released in Mainz, Germany, the first pressed. See, that's important because once that printing press came out, they were able to print it and then spread it throughout the world a lot easier. And even though it was a remixed, changed up, influenced, political, and everything else book, at least they were able to print it and get it out to the rest of the world.
That's right.
Therein lies the issue. Because if you think about it, this translation is the one that really has a grip on us. You know, this translation that is part truth and fairy tale and folklore and imaginary, and these characters in it with all these names, you know, Matthew and Luke and Mark and John and Sarah, you know, all these European centered names, Paul, Peter, you know. So those names represented a certain group, and that group was European, you see? So if you look at our connection, which is another question that proposes, what is the primary connection between the Afro-American and England? What is it? What's the connection? Okay? You search that out, and what you're going to find, the connection is the slave trade. You see? So now you have this book, and then you have this connection to Black folks, even to this day in 2025, through this book, which is called the King James Authorized Version. Yes, and I know there's many other versions, you know, the NIV and American Standard and all that, but they do not precede 1611. Not only that, if the King James is the infallible word of God, then all those other books must come out the minds of men. Isn't that correct? Okay. So what you'll find as the one that we recognize as the authorized version was in England, in Hampton, and the outside of London, by a gentleman named Robert Baker. Now, if you take that name and you just Google that name, Robert Barker, what you're going to find out is his connection to the King James. And as you can see, it has no African ancestry whatsoever. That means there's no connection to the people of color that it serves. Make sense?
Makes sense. Make total sense.
Now, why is this so important? The reason why this is so important is because the connection between African Americans and the enslavers and the colonizers is what started this United States, shall I say, the political aspect of our existence in this country. We fought for the country before we even have rights in the country. See, this is the importance of using this book to subdue and indoctrinate those in captivity, which were us. This is why this is so important to me, because it actually touches home, being the, ancestor of an actual slave, see, which was my great grandfather, my great grandfather on his side, okay, William Darby, okay, that was the name of it on my family. Now, everybody can do their own individual search, but mine started there in North Carolina, then it moved to Tennessee, and I can make the direct connection to Georgia, which is where they came from. But when I started looking at all this, I can actually make the connection and connect the dots in my case. As I began to share this information, I found other people could also make the same connections. They just ignored it. And the reason why is because what we did was change it up ourselves.
I have reservations also about the origin of the King James Version, how it came into our hands as Asiatic people.
Yes.
And my current research is to find out the history of the slave Bible. Now, it's a derivative from the King James Version.
Yeah, we're going to get into the slave Bible in the next broadcast.
Okay.
Trust me on that.
And also, there's the Gullah Geechee Bible.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to, again, equip myself with knowledge throughout this whole transition.
Yes.
Why do we instantly, when someone brings something that causes that cognitive dissonance, to instantly go into almost a rage? All points that you are bringing up is something that I'm still trying to understand. And you mentioned the Ethiopian Bible, which is the oldest documentation.
One of them.
One of them.
Yes.
How did it become European?
Okay. So what happens is that with every colonizer, with every enslaver, what they do is they break down the people, and they break that down by force. Now, what they do after they break them down by force, they have to change those people until they begin to emulate their oppressor without force. Now, this is a mental transformation. It starts out physical, right?
That's right.
Chains, whips, guns. It starts out physical. But they continue to do that until the elders that bring up their own youth begin to teach as they've been taught, right? So now what you have is a psychological impairment. Basically, you have a block that you can't even see as an adult rearing your children. So now the enslaver can step back and you can be your own enslaver in your own home. For example, if you're not allowed to read, right? We know reading is fundamental. Reading is a good thing because there's information and knowledge. But African Americans forget there were a time when you could die from reading. If you got caught reading, you will die, right? Now, by an enslaver is one thing, by a colonizer is one thing. But when your own mother, threatens to kill you if she catches you reading, or she beats you if she catches you learning how to read, right? Now that's a whole different thing altogether, because now you're dealing with the psychological impairments being imposed upon you by the same one who said they love you. You understand what I'm saying? Fast forward, and what you find all of a sudden, hey, there's some capital gain in African Americans reading. If I had some slaves that could read, there's some capital gains in that. Okay, now go ahead, you better read. So now they tell your mother, right? Hey, teach your kids to read. Now what they tell you? Go to school, get that education. of what education you're going to get. You're going to get a colonized, indoctrinated one, right? Now, we're old enough to remember when that's all your elders used to preach to you. Go to college, baby. Go to school, baby. Not knowing that that may not be good for everyone. You know, you may have a skilled trade that you need to get some learning on, but that necessarily does not mean you need to go to a physical institution to get that kind of education.
Right.
And what do? We start creating Afro-American institutions, right? HBCUs, who are often were set up just like their counterparts. They had fraternities, you had fraternities. They had sororities, you got a sorority. Okay? They call themselves Greeks, you call yourself a Greek. You see? Then they start making the question here, where there's black Greeks. You see? So basically what I'm saying is I'm not speaking against those institutions. I'm saying that's the reality of what we have, and that's how we got here. Well, they say, well, no, Doc, that was then. It's not now. You know, we have our own thing going on. We don't have any connection. The African transatlantic slave trade, there was no connection to us. All right, what language do you speak? What language are you and I speaking right now? What clothes are we wearing? Are we wearing the clothes of the original melanated people? That's how we're dressing? What food do we eat? What are we eating? You know, what's soul food? Is that the original food? You know, do we still eat chitlins in some circuits? Ribs, mac and cheese, bacon?
You're making me hungry. You're making me hungry now.
You see? Which those things are good too. But you also have fruit, vegetables, water. See, all these things is how you came up originally, okay, in that diet. Or if you were like me, when I started this, somebody would ask me what was the original diet of the African in the continent. I couldn't have told you. Because, you know, I came up on an American diet. More specifically, an Afro-American diet. Okay? So my sweet potato pie that my mother made tastes very delicious, but it's not the same way that sweet potatoes were prepared in our original state. You understand? Which would have been much more healthy for me and the family than the sweet potato pie that she made with the butter and the brown sugar and the cinnamon and the nutmeg and all that. But I'm gonna stop right there. I'm like you. I'm gonna want a pie in a minute.
You know, and I'm sitting here listening to you.
Go.
And what resonates with me is the idea that Christianity was pushed upon us, forced upon us.
Right.
The desire to want to be a part of something
Right.
also pushed that forward. What do I mean by that? I mean, because now there's a dialogue about FBAs, you know, foundational Black Americans.
Yes.
Then you have ADOS, African descendants of slaves.
Yeah.
All these different groups. You mentioned fraternities,
Yes.
Masons,
Yes.
Eastern Stars.
Yeah.
All these are organizations
Yeah.
that Asiatic people want to be associated to something great.
Yes.
Because we've been minimized. Everything has been stripped from us. So we're scrambling to try and validate ourselves.
Yes.
We're searching for validation.
Yes.
And I think through these organizations, through religion,
Mm-hmm.
whether it is Christianity, where it is Islamic, you have the Nation of Islam. Those are all groups that people are trying to search and be connected. And somehow brings us unity. That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
As you were speaking.
Yeah.
That gives religion, Christianity, the power, that the desire, the longing to be a part of something that keeps us gripped, keeps us confined, keep us bounded, and not really thinking outside of those boxes and boundaries.
Correct. Now, in all fairness, I will set aside the Nation of Islam for the sake of this conversation because there's some different tenets. They have a different, a book, the Quran.
Correct.
They call the Most High a different name. And although they are very knowledgeable, at least the ones I know, about the King James Version of the Bible, but there are some discrepancies that they have that's a little bit different. They have their own set of, indoctrinated issues.
Oh, and I forgot one more group.
Yes.
You ready?
Yes.
The Hebrew Israelites.
Uh-huh.
So
yes.
all these groups, these sects, these subsects, these black organizations, all jockeying to try and position themselves as the authority.
Yes.
I am not talking or disrespecting anyone that is still in the trenches and they still focused on, Christianity. It's just, I was there.
Yeah, good is good.
I was there.
Right.
I have just grown to a point to challenge everything.
Mm-hmm.
Not one thing is going to supersede the other.
Right.
All of these groups foundationally was established on something great.
Yes.
But we have to be responsible to do the work.
Right.
Do the work that you have done.
Right.
Do the work that I am currently trying to do.
Yes.
And further the knowledge. And I don't want you to be indoctrinated by what we say.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to go out there and do your own homework.
Mm-hmm.
Do your own. We're not going to sit up here and give you the information. If you find something that we are saying contradictory, you go look that information up to find out, why do I have this dissonant? Why do I have this anger or this battle, conflict happening?
Right.
You're going to have to do the work on yourself to break the chain.
Yes. Yes. Well, what we're talking about is very simple. We're talking about once you find that out, demonstration. That's it. Live it, and show the world that. So if you're following a system that's supposed to be liberating and liberate you and all people, then show me liberation. Show us liberation. It's real simple. You see, it doesn't take a lot of, investigation and
a whole lot of whoop-de-whoop.
No. All right, you say that's what you follow, and you say that's what it does, then demonstrate it. You don't demonstrate it, I don't believe you. See how easy that is? So if you say that you believe in this higher power that can move a mountain, and then you demonstrate in your life that it's moving mountains, hey, so be it. Just don't try to convince me that it's someone other than yourself initiating it and another God man or God woman helping you. Because it's not going to be possible. You can pray up and then have it come back down to a human all you want. At the end of the day, you can take a shot. We can just go straight to the other human. And that's what runs what we have going on today. Whether you're talking about political, religion, feeding some homeless, taking care of yourself, raising your kids, these are humans. Or like I say, God-minded humans, them being the God mind, that God man, not the creator of the universe. Don't know what that is. That's a phenomenon. We have opinions on it, you see? Now, if you listen to this quote right here, this verse, okay, it says, and I wrote this down myself, it says, the colonizers used the enslavers, which can sometimes be the same people, to oppress and justify slavery. You hear that? They used the KJV to justify and oppress African Americans during slavery. Do you think that's a true statement?
Oh, yeah, I believe it.
Okay, now watch this. This is the tricky part. While they were doing that, the African Americans or the enslaved reinterpreted the Bible as a message of freedom and liberation to resistance and a source of hope. So what you'll find is the colonizer and the enslaver using the same book to oppress and justify slavery, while at the same time, the enslaved is reinterpreting it to fit their efforts to support their freedom and to support their resistance and give them hope. So you have these two things going on at the same time with the same book. This is why in the book you'll see verses that pertain to slavery.
Mm-hmm.
You see rules that pertain how to treat your slave. And I've seen a lot of literal acrobatics and been engaged in conversations with many pastors. Well, slavery means indentured servant, and some of them it means worker. No, what you're doing, right? You're reinterpreting to fit your agenda because that's what you've been stuck with. And me too. We were no different.
We were no different, right?
Now, the truth of the matter is, the same book that's used to oppress and enslave you cannot be used to liberate and free you and give you hope. It's impossible. Because you got the bitter and sweet coming out the same book. This is the dilemma we're faced with right now. Okay? When I studied, I come up with over 130 contradictions in the same book. In a book that is pure, okay, and righteous, will have no contradictions. No, just like you as a person, okay, you should not have any contradictions in you walking around. Shouldn't have none. So if you have a book that's have all these contradictions, don't throw verses in there like, study, not to be ashamed, like a workman. All these books, the Bible must be read line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. In what world? When a book is written directly from page 1 all the way in, if it's 100 pages to page 100. Everything's in order. What book you have to go here and then flip over here, and then you got this date's missing, and then you got a couple of 100 years out of this particular one, then over here you pick up again. No book is written like that, except one that's been tampered with and one that's been changed. So to answer your question, that is at the center. This dilemma is at the center of all these particular groups. They're trying to use the same document. When I say groups, I'm talking about the Christian ones, today Christian ones, okay? They're trying to use this same document to free them that was used to originally enslave their ancestors.
Mm-hmm. I have a question.
Go.
Can you
Yep.
remember exactly what you did 10 years ago on this day?
No.
Okay. What about 5 years?
No.
A year ago this day?
Yes.
You can possibly get into
I get close.
Get real close.
Yes.
There's a reason that I'm going with this.
I know. I see.
So, and to the audience members that are listening, can you know exactly what you was doing 10 years ago on this day? The point I'm trying to get to is, if you cannot be exact in your own, currently right now, in your own life 10 years ago, know exactly what you're doing, how are we going to know 150 years or 200 years exactly what was happening to the very day where they were, that traveled, without firsthand knowledge and account, and actually know exactly what went down?
Good question. Yeah.
So that's one of the main issues that I have with this doctrine.
It's a good question. It's the one that I had too early on, about 20 years or so ago. And the answer is you can't. Now, there's a chance that you can exercise something in you, and we call that belief. You can exercise belief, and you can choose to believe what you want. Okay? But it's going to lead you right to cognitive dissonance, you see? Because at the end of the day, your logical thinking and your critical thinking is what should reign supreme when it comes to mastering your life in this dimension of where we are dying daily and growing up in physical, okay? That's what you should be using here. Number one, you're going to get the most benefit out of it. You're going to get the most truth out of it. And you're going to get the most production out of it if you use your critical and logical thinking to live this life here. Now, imaginary world is in the book, where it says if you need something, you can go get it, but you better ask for it first. What are you asking? You're asking this imaginary entity that you've never seen, that's never spoken for himself, that's never appeared except in a book, right? This document they call the KJV, instead of just making it happen by being empowered through empowering yourself or using other empowered God men and God women to take care of that business. You see?
Mm-hmm.
So your questioning is spot on. And that's the kind of thought processes, that provoking thought processes that we need in order to move us forward. Now, like I said, anybody using any system that they're using, and if it's effective for them, hey, do your thing, okay? But don't try to, I hate to use the word con, I'll say trick us into believing that this document is the end all to be all, like as long as I got this, as long as I got a hold of this book, I can do anything. You see what I mean? Because now you're going to be on this cycle of cognitive dissonance, and you're probably going to end up being taken advantage of by someone who knows how to skillfully use it.
We just recently had the failed attempt of rapture that just took place on September 23rd.
Absolutely. Once again.
And I'm listening to these, and I feel bad. I feel bad for some of the people that got caught up in that because they sold their property.
Yeah.
They gave away all of their wealth, cars, money, in the thought of they were getting ready to be called up into rapture.
Mm-hmm.
What's today's date? At the time of this recording,
October the 1st.
October the 1st.
Mm-hmm.
They still here.
Yeah.
And lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
Utilizing this Bible.
Mm-hmm. Belief.
Faith.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I have watched, now I'm not too familiar with the Jewish community in the synagogue and the different pastoral. I know there are words that I'm not using correctly, but someone was giving a message to their congregation, and they were using the Bible to justify necessary killing of people to push the religion forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ordained by God.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
That it must be done.
Mm-hmm.
And I was floored.
There's a verse for that. Yeah.
To know that people are using that Bible verse and doctrine to push an agenda to kill innocent people.
Yes, sir.
And the scary part about it is they have power behind those words to influence the behavior of organizations to carry out said ideology within that doctrine.
Yes.
So it's way more than, I'm pushing it all the way back.
It's deeper. Yeah, it's deep.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. And then you get Christians following that same philosophy that this person was spewing to his congregation.
Yes.
Like, I know it sounds bad, but it's a necessary thing we need to do in the name of God. I am so glad I've broken away from that because you can You can sit up here and tell yourself, "Oh yeah, I'm just going to let." There's nothing wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
God said for them people to die.
Mm.
We're the chosen ones.
Mm.
Are you really the chosen one? Because I don't think they think you're the chosen one.
Right.
Christians.
Yeah, they don't.
You're not the chosen one that they are talking about.
No, that's that reinvention again.
The reinvention.
We took it and we reinterpreted it. Oh, that must be us. You know, we're the Israelites. We're the only ones who went in slavery for 400 years. That's not true either, but nevertheless. If you read the Bible, they're talking about us.
Mm-hmm.
That can't be true. You know, how are they going to be talking about you and your grandmama was before you and she didn't even teach you that? You know more than your grandmother? Your father? You know more than your mother? Well, my mother didn't know because this information wasn't available to her. No, that's not true. But the Bible was? No. You know, now you can go ahead and react under that false illusion if you want to. And if it's bringing you joy, peace, happiness, hey, go for it. Okay? But at the end of the day, you're not. You're going to fall into the same prejudices that the Bible does. Because you and I both know there's no such thing as no chosen persons. You ask them why. We don't know why. What do you mean? Well, you know, God ordained it. Why? Give me the verse to say why. Now, there's one to say because you are a chosen people. Why Esau was not and Jacob was, and they come out the same womb. You don't have this question. You don't have this answer. You know, and I'm open to anybody who wants to try to answer it. Go ahead and drop a comment.
Oh yeah.
I'll listen, but you're not going to have one, you know. Like I said before, you know, his name was Trickster. You know, he helped with the help of his mama, he tricked him anyway. If you want to believe that fairy tale, that a man can actually wrestle with an angel, a non-physical being, you know, and he can touch you in the thigh. Come on, man. Now, if you choose to believe that, that is your right, like I said. But if this particular belief system is empowering you to be the best you can, go right ahead. See, but they're not going to be able to prove it. Not to me as of today, but I invite all challengers, all comers. Come on and let's see what we can work together and reason together, and maybe, you know, I can come around in your train of thought. You never know.
Never know.
I will say this. In addition to that, we have dying and living confused anyway. So right now we're dying. But when someone dies, they call that death. No, you die daily. You die every day. Okay? Now that is something that's in the Bible, that we die daily. We're born dying, you see. Now most think they're born living. But you come from a living state into a dying state, and you're dying, and then you're going to be born again. So this energy that is possessing us now is what does not die. That cannot die. Well, you and me, we're dying every day, just a little bit, a little bit. Falling off, getting older and older and older. But we call this life. But we're actually not living right now. We're actually dying. And we're trying to manage that process while we're here so we can leave behind those that we brought into this world and share this world with to be a better place than it was when we got here, right?
That's right.
So if you really want to maximize your opportunity, maximize those who you duplicated of yourself and left here. And that's including grandkids. You know, so if you have children and they have children, your sole purpose is to make sure your children were independent and productive in this world. That's what your responsibility is. Now, if they have children, that becomes theirs. But you, as a grandparent, now you have to make sure that reaches their children's children. You see? So what you do is you keep being this example and you keep leading and you do it right on into your last days. Then your energy leaves your body. Where it goes, we don't know. We have a lot of different ideas. There's a lot of different African principles that says where we go and claims that we come right back through another in the same bloodline, right? Thus, everlasting life, because that part won't die. I don't know how many green leaves they go back. I don't know how many Darbys they go back, but we still here, and we're still. Carter's had a grandson. Okay, that Darby, he's here. Okay, and he's here now. So he's dying as he grows up, and then he dies, and then his energy will go back if whoever he leaves here. You see, so this life, when they talk about the end of the world and all, this is never going to end. It always was, and it always still will be. It just keeps evolving and regenerating itself into another God person, and then they will continue to live. I hope that makes sense.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And I will definitely encourage the listeners to make comments in the bottom of the Facebook page, the Grand Rising Empowerment Facebook page. Let your comments know so that we can address it, research it, and it may be something that we will add into a future episode and dialogue. We are going to get to a point where technology will be able to have call-ins. So we are steadily moving forward to grow the knowledge, to provide a platform for people to grow. To recap, the deconstruction of Christianity.
Yes.
Step 1.
Step 1 is learn your personal divinity.
Step 2.
Step 2 is understand there's a difference between symbolic thought that was indoctrinated, what you were taught, and symptomatic and systematic thinking, which is where you should be going, that promotes critical thinking and logical thinking, which is elevated thought.
Third
is what we talked about today, which is how did we get here in the first place? How did 92% of captured slaves become what the oppressor and colonizer was in the religious concept? How did you become that? How do you have so many Garys and Toms and Marks and Lukes, when that was not your original state? How do we get to 72% in 2025 still holding on to this document that was remixed and mixed and reinterpreted and turned around, and now everybody clings to it as though it's real and actual fact? How do we get there? So basically, we're talking about our fascination with this KJV that cannot be accepted unless it's through cognitive dissonance. Okay? And then basically, we're talking about the connection between the African American and the colonizer, England, Great Britain, that had us fighting on their side, even though we were not citizens of what they were fighting for, even though we were not permitted to educate ourselves, vote, and weren't considered to be human. But we're fighting for them, fighting with them side by side. How did they pull this off? Through this document. And most importantly, why do we accept that they used it to oppress and enslave our ancestors and us today, while we simultaneously were reinterpreting it and using it for our liberation, freedom, and resistance and hope? How was all this possible? And it's all possible because of the way we've been indoctrinated and colonized. And like I said before, that's still affecting us as a group now. We have some individual successes, but as a group, it still affects us today in 2025 when it comes to relationships. I hear people all the time, women, especially women, well, what kind of man you want? Well, he has to be a man of God. He has to love Jesus as his Lord. You know, you ask a man, hey, man, what kind of woman you looking for? Well, she got to love Jesus, got to love God.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, we continue to perpetuate this same mindset, okay? And we don't even consider, and this is the most important part, if the King James Version is 414 years old, but mankind traces back 6 million years, 6 million years, okay, to the continent. And they all agree on this, the African continent, okay? What cultural systems were they using? What book were they using before this document, so-called from the Lord, from God, came down? What were they using? In Kemet, Samaria, Mesopotamia, the Olmecs, okay? What were these civilizations using, which were thriving, by the way? And the answer is they were using spirit rituals and cultural systems. Spiritual systems and cultural systems. And they were thriving just fine before the invaders. Okay? I'm going to land my plane, brother.
It is always great. So we're looking forward to the next episode.
Yes, sir.
And stay tuned.
Slave Bible, we're going to get into it.
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm so ready.
Yes, sir.
Grand rising to you, Battle.
Yes, sir.
And I look forward to the next episode. Stay tuned.
Yes, sir.